Mother's Day is a day of celebration, but it's also a day that many people feel left behind. Some of us have lost our children. Others were never able to conceive. Or perhaps, like me, you're a single woman wondering if it's too late. I am blessed to have a mom, but I'm also blessed by the many spiritual parents that God has sent me throughout my life. And I can honestly say that my faith would not be the same if it weren't for these spiritual mothers. The Bible is full of examples of spiritual mothers, but one that really sticks out to me is Priscilla. Priscilla, often called Prissa in the Bible, was a woman of tremendous courage and strength. Scholars believe that Prissa was childless. She and her husband Aquila were forced to leave their home in Rome when a decree was issued stating that all Jews had to be removed from the area. They relocated to the cosmopolitan city of Corinth. Here they continued their work as tent makers, and it was here that they met the Apostle Paul, who was in the same line of work. The three of them formed a fast friendship. In fact, in Romans chapter 16, verse 4, Paul says that Prissa and Aquila both stuck out their necks on behalf of his life, though we're not sure exactly what this means. In time, Paul decided to move the hub of his ministry to Ephesus. Prissa and her husband accompanied him. Paul continued on, but Prissa and Aquila stayed in Ephesus and ran the church from their home. One day, in an Ephesian synagogue, Prissa and Aquila heard a new young preacher. This man was called Apollos. Apollos was eloquent and highly educated. In fact, many scholars believe he was educated in Alexandria, which is a sort of Near Eastern Oxford equivalent. And while he was very well versed in the scriptures, he lacked certain key points of his theology. So Prissa and Aquila invited Apollos back to their home, where they explained to him more accurately the ways of God. Interestingly, every time Paul mentions Priscilla or Aquila, they always come as a package deal, as a duo. But not only that, Paul often mentions Prissa first before her husband. Scholars have different ideas about why this might be the case. Some think that it could be because Prissa came to faith before her husband, but others believe it was because Priscilla had a more prominent role in the church at that time. Whatever the reason, we know that Priscilla was a key player in the early church. Yet trouble was brewing in Ephesus. Paul mentions being in fear for his life every hour, every moment. He also mentions battling with the beasts at Ephesus, though we're not sure exactly what he's referring to here. It could have been some form of persecution. In time, Prissa and Aquila decided to relocate. They went back to their home, Rome. They likely thought that the coast was clear. After all, the Emperor Claudius had passed away in the year 54 AD. Sadly, they were mistaken. On the 19th of July, in the year 64 AD, a terrible fire broke out across Rome, completely decimating 10 out of 14 of the districts at that time. It completely obliterated all the houses on the Aventine Hill, where Prissa and Aquila are thought to have had their house and their church. Sadly, the emperor of that time, a man called Nero, blamed Christians for the fire, and a new wave of terrible persecution broke out across the land. Prissa and her husband escaped, relocating back to Ephesus. We don't hear much about their lives after this time, but we do know that they were safe with Timothy, through whom Paul sends his warm greetings in the letter he writes in the year 67 AD. What must it have been like for Priscilla to find so many young believers in her charge. I wonder if she identified with the writings of Isaiah, particularly in chapter 54, when he penned these words. Sing, O barren one who did not bear. Break forth into singing and cry aloud, you who have not been in labor. For the children of the desolate one will be more than the children of her who is married, says the Lord. All your children shall be taught by the Lord, and great shall be the peace of your children. No weapon that is fashioned against you shall succeed. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and their vindication from me, says the Lord. Priscilla's life, though fraught with unknowns and perils, through the homelessness and the persecution and the political tumult, she never stopped working for the Lord. She never stopped discipling those around her. And I believe it was because she was founded on the person of Jesus Christ. Her faith was unshakable, and no weapon fashioned against her could prosper. Truly, the early church could say of Priscilla, she was a great spiritual mom. Now, perhaps you have a spiritual mother in your life, someone who has been discipling you or mentoring you, someone who has been encouraging your faith. Would you consider reaching out to her today and thanking her for the many ways that she has enriched your belief in God? And for those of us who are ourselves spiritual moms, let us continue on with perseverance as Priscilla did, pouring into those around us and discipling the believers that God sends to us. We never know when we might be discipling a young Apollos. Happy Mother's Day.